she really wanna know when I'm gonna send her back, she might ought to do a hug.
She said, I got your phone number now, I'm gonna log you in. I said, oh, God. Yeah, I gotta get your phone, man.
I'm trying to work on that,
man. Good gracious alive.
You ain't gonna like it.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. What I was reading, it says right here, you shall be connected to city sewer if it's available, it doesn't say anything about not. That sounds like you need to take that money and connect yourself to the sewer. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, okay. All I know was she was pit bull, I was chihuahua, whatever you call them, look at the dog. I couldn't get that name.
Are you like Miss Catherine Jennings' little dog and Chuck's dog?
Yeah.
You got shook a couple of times, it was all over.
He said, well, I have your phone number and I'm getting to log in and I'm gonna call you every other day. I don't say every day, but every other day until I hear something. So whatever we gotta do on that situation, please, can we?
You should have told her, I don't want to talk to you that much.
Hey, I'm trying to, I couldn't get that in. I told her the only thing I could say was, yes, ma'am. That's all she allowed me to say.
I think it's that time. I was running late.
By the way, Louis, she said, and what's the clerk name? I said, oh, Mr. Davis. What's his first name? I said, Louis. No, my Louis up there. I said, no, ma'am, it's Louis. Louis. No, it's Louis. I said, yes, ma'am, it's Louis. So Louis.
Is that something we can have to look at? Oh, any new stuff there?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't plan to be here till midnight, and I don't plan to be here long. I really kind of want to hear everybody kind of some feedback and see what we need to do. Pretty much. Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and open up. Everybody, clerk, you don't have a problem with that? Just fire out. Councilman Wayne, can you just give us a little short word of prayer?
Father God, we come today giving thanks to you, Father. Father, just want to thank you for bringing us out this evening, Father. Father, we ask if that would please be with us, Father. Father, bless this city, Father. Father, take this city to higher heights, Father. Father, just ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. Amen.
There's kind of two things on the table that we kind of want to discuss. We've had plenty of discussion on our 1 cent sale tax. We had several public hearings. We have met among ourselves as mayor and council members, had a discussion as well. And we pretty much know our situation dealing with our financial situation here in the city. With the three, myself and the two councilors that's present, we know before we came aboard that we had some closure of business that kind of hurt us, financial wise in the city that the city was, dependent on, and that stopped. And not counting other things that has occurred during our administration. So we see our financial report twice a month. If not, we are able to go by and see our city clerk that do a marvelous job in our finance, and we can go by and see it. And it's no long discussion on a 1 cent sale tax. But my thing of this workshop tonight is just kind of have some discussion from the floor, and we sit down and come to common ground, and pretty much everybody get on one accord. So when this thing do come to a vote among ourselves, we might not agree on everything, but we be somewhere, all of us be somewhere pretty close to what we want to do for the city. With that said, we'll have a slight discussion on that. But my biggest thing is tonight is that we never really had a discussion on our fee increase. We kind of, from time to time in meetings, I know Councilman Hunter, he's mentioned it, and I somewhat mentioned and sewage and all that is somewhat, low. And we heard it from ourselves, from our own, grant writer, Ms. Campbell, you know, about saying that our fee was kind of low and when we were applying for these grants and stuff. And just fortunate enough, we've been kind of lucky, you know, that we've been able to, she said, over the course of the years, that we've been, you know, lucky that we have received some funds even in the past. So the thing is, how long can we be lucky without, you know, being unlucky? So while I'm here in this part of this administration, I don't want to just keep, you know, basing the city on just sliding by and we being lucky. I just really feel like we need to be somewhat financially stable that we can feel comfortable for these next few years. If something comes up or anything happens, that we're financially able to do it. And, you know, when you look around, we want the city to grow, you know, and we all know it take all of us working together, and it take finance. Let's not be naive on that. It take money to grow. You know, either we can sit back for these next few years and just sit here, be idle, and just come to meeting every second and fourth month, or we can, you know, we can get on board and try to see what we need to do to make the city grow, you know. So that's the purpose of tonight, and like I said, I hope, you know, we can somewhat agree on some things, to get some things moving, and it's you know, that's pretty much it coming from me, that what we need to do. And like as I stated earlier, we know the situation on the financial aspect of our city. You know, we're not sinking, but we just kind of barely moving along. And some things that we already have agreed that we want to do, that is going to cost us some money down the road, you know, and that we really need, you know, to make sure we're financially stable to do these things. And that's the thing, you know, it's in the city, sometimes, you know, in the city, you know, if you don't have the resources and you don't have the funds, you know, it's going to be hard to, you know, get things done. And we owe it to our citizens. When we made that pledge to campaign, we made this pledge to step out to vote, ask the people to vote for us, and you know, each one of us had a certain thing that I'm sure that our constituents asked us, what are we gonna do? You know, and one of the things is that I'm sure most of us said that we would like to see some progress made in the city. So in order for that to happen here, you know, it take finance. It's just like you know, I say it all the time, it's just like your home, you know, you can't operate your household without having some type of income coming in. And some of the things that already been done, even with our paving of our roads here, I know that that money just didn't drop out of the sky. I'm sure it was some funds and stuff had to be taken out of this fund, this account, this account, this account. Okay, so once you take something out of this account, you know, it's gone. So, you know, whether we need to try to, you know, reestablish those accounts or have something to fall back on, you know, that's it, because I know $400-some thousand of payment or more, you know, that money just didn't, you know, we just didn't get this money and it was just handed to us. Over the course of the years, it was some money that was being established in these accounts that's no longer available now. So, you know, sometimes, you know, when people say, well, you know, we don't need to do this, we don't need to do that, but when we taking money from somewhere, you know, that's money gone. Either we replace it or we don't, and then when something does happen, you know, what are we gonna fall back on? You know, we have already kind of obligated ourselves to that we wanted to see our park grow, and a continuation process of that, and you know, and it's a financial obligation. It's dealing with fortunate this time that the grant did come through for the, fire truck that we'll be receiving this year. So that's somewhat help, but that's still money on our part that we're gonna have to come up with as well, you know? And even though when we do receive grants, you always have to remember, most of the grants ain't 100%. It's still some type of financial obligation that the city have to come up with. Whether it's 20%, 30%, you know, when we apply for these grants. And I'm just gonna say this, and then like I say, I'll be done pretty much. I have not received not one complaint about this sale tax. Most of the citizens that I've spoken with is in favor of it. They'd say that, you know, hopefully we'll use it to good use toward the city, whether it's for infrastructure or buying something that, you know, that the city really needs to see benefit for, you know. And no negative feedback that I've received. I can't speak for for Councilman Hunter or Councilman Mangram, but I myself, I haven't received any negative feedback. And you all know I can't pretty much walk out the door without somebody stopping me. And so I received some good reports, even, you know, from that, even from people that I thought maybe would have had a little problem that said, hey, can I see about the, you know, I know what y'all trying to implement the 1 cent sale tax. And I said, oh, here we go. And they said, hey, you know, we support you 110%. Because, you know, I've been here in the city of Lafayette for 40 years, 30 years, and I think it's time for us to, you know, at least see a little something. You know, we just don't want to see it just misused and not use it all and just sit there. I said, no, we're gonna use it the best of our ability. And you know, so the biggest complaint that I'm still receiving, and you all know what I'm getting ready to say, is our water. And there again, we don't know the outcome and what that's gonna be. Because as you all know, I don't have to get up here 30 minutes to talk about the water, but that's part of our quality of life of living. That's essential living, our water. And each of them, including myself and each one of you here, sitting here tonight, have received some type of complaint about our water. And I know our funds have, you know, have come in and we've received half our funds. And I know I sit here and say some obligations that I want to see some things done in each and every one district. Hopefully that can still stand, but ladies and gentlemen, we do have a problem with our water system right now. And I haven't heard anything. I did, you know, I haven't talked to Ian about it recently, but the last I heard that they were still in town, conducting that study on the water system. So, but we do have some problems, and we don't know. I know y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we have applied for a grant, and I don't know if we heard anything back from that, any feedback from that yet. But there again, we got to think about if it don't come through, because I was kind of weary when Ms. Campbell said what she said about, you know, about our fees. So I was kind of worried about that. But we you know, again, we have some things that we need to get done. It's just simple as that. Whether or not everybody on board or not, I don't know. You know, we'll know Monday. So you know, my thing is either we gonna try to do something for this city, or we're gonna sit idle for the next 4 years. You know, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I didn't go through no sweat. I didn't go through no hardship just to sit here for 4 years and not do nothing. That's personally coming from me. In that case, I could have chosen to do something else. But I care about this city. I love this city. I was born and raised here, and I'll die here. But the thing is, I've been here long enough that I want to see some change in myself to get this city up and going. And the bottom line and the bottom dollar is, it takes money to run a city. And that's all I have to say. At this time, I open it up. 1 cent sales tax, and we'll go into our fees, but that's all I have. Yes, ma'am.
Couple of things. Would we have an election or a vote on the 1 cent sales tax from the citizens? Is there a law stating that? Because I know Georgia, Columbus just did a 1 cent sales tax.
Yeah,
And they're only doing it for like 6 months.
And then they going back.
And then it's going back,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
then they may start it over again. But they're designating it just for one purpose. And that money will be for that purpose. So that would be a question, why do we, citizens?
I've heard about it, I'm familiar with one of the councilmen on the Columbus, I had talked to them about it. And once everything was over with, he kind of told me that they voted for it, they passed it. And after 6 months, like you said, they voted for 9 cents, then it's going back to 8 cents.
Correct.
They use it for one specific purpose. Here in the city of Lafayette, we have a lot of purposes. So, I don't think I'm gonna ask the rest of the council just for 6 months or a year. To me, we need ours pretty much long term,
Okay,
if that's
all right.
pretty much what you're asking.
The budget, have we finalized the budget?
No, we're working on the budget now.
And when will it be finalized?
Not sure about finalized, but I know at the last meeting, Councilman Mangram had the last meeting, the group rather had the last meeting with me, and then we'll put all the numbers together, and I can tell you now, the point we're at right now, when we put all the numbers back together, we'll still have more work to do.
Do we average about maybe 400,000 a month in bills? Is that our average? Give or take a month or two?
Roughly.
Okay, so that's what it takes but we're not getting that in income. So we gotta figure out what is the income for all, let's just throw this all in the bucket together. Because even if we had income of 550,000 a month, that's only 6.6 million.
Well,
Where can we get to that point? What I'm getting to is go up 50 cents on each utility
It'll be,
and do that every year. That's not gonna break the bank, 50 cents, or even $1. And then we need to look at our property taxes. We need to go up on that big time. So,
Couple things I want to speak to about what you said. I'm not 100% familiar with the specific tax that Columbus just passed, but I do know in Georgia, generally what they have is what they call the SPLOST.
right, and that's what it was called.
Which is the special purpose tax. And normally it's always a temporary tax, and it'll be specifically for a special purpose, and it'll go before the voters. As far as I know, Mac, we don't have a SPLOST here in Alabama.
No, we don't have anything like that.
Seen it, yeah.
There are some things that don't apply to us, but it's strictly a city ordinance. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
was gonna
require
say.
ratification by a vote of the public.
Yeah.
Most of the fees that the mayor's referred to do not. Now, one of the things I was gonna mention was our sewer is supposed to be reviewed regularly. And the sewer fees are supposed to cover costs.
Yes.
And that analysis needs to be done according to an ordinance that's on the books.
Well, and one thing that I want to mention too, so I just kind of want to explain that difference. So the way we're set up here, that sales tax, potential sales tax vote will be a vote of the council. Now, when you mentioned property tax would have to go before the voters, starting with the legislature, correct?
I'm not so sure that property tax doesn't actually have to be a statewide amendment before you can have that vote.
Well, that's kind of why I meant starting with the legislature.
You've got to have a constitution, a local,
Yeah.
state, a local
what about
constitutional amendment. to
property
allow that.
appraisals
Property
need to go
appraisals
up
has
then
nothing to
the
do-
tax would go up.
No, that's the county commissioner. The statute specifically says the revenue commissioner of the county is responsible for collecting ad valorem taxes. We have no part in it. We're at their complete and utter mercy on that.
But,
All we can do is the millage, and that has to be done through constitutional and statewide process.
and then the last thing pertaining to what you said, Mr. Troxell, so you mentioned about the total, like, so when we talk about our utilities, they're actually enterprise funds, and I've discussed this with the mayor and council before. So enterprise funds, your electric fund, your water fund, your sewer fund, and your sanitation. They're really, as enterprise funds, they're supposed to stand alone, meaning your electric department should cover itself, your water department should cover itself, sewer and sanitation. So, and that's what we've talked about. So the sales tax, and I want everyone to be clear about this, the sales tax would really just be for the general fund. We still have issues in our enterprise funds that we need to
Yeah, we gotta cover
take
that
care-
too.
care of. So, and I know it was mentioned, someone said previously about, well, if we increase the sales tax, you know, that's only a drop in the bucket. We still have this other stuff, and I want everyone to know that we know that. I mean, you know, we
Yeah, we're
don't
gonna have it
think
all.
that, yeah,
It needs to go up.
that was one, I think it was Councilmember Hunter previously, made a motion to increase garbage rates. And part of the reason behind that was because each of those departments, we have to do something to basically balance those funds.
Right.
So the sales tax is one component. I have some copies here I'm gonna give the mayor and council, I can give you, of our water rates and our sewer rates and our garbage rate. And, those are all things that we're gonna have to take care of.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, so it's like, so the sales tax is just one piece of the pie.
right. And have we thought any further about having bonds for the city to be sold so that the people can invest in the bonds for the city and utilize that money for what
And I
have you?
know- Well,
We have to have some surplus to pay them off.
yeah, I was just getting ready to say, I know Mayor Vines has spoken with individuals about bonds in the past, but the very first thing that's gonna happen, say like if we get a bond to do some work in our water plant. Well, right now, currently, our water fund is negative. So they're not gonna issue a bond because, you know what, we can't pay for
We
it.
can't pay for it.
Right,
The very first thing they're gonna say is, you know what,
We're not
you're
sufficient.
gonna have to increase your rates or do something to show us that you can pay back
right.
what
Well,
you're
And I'll
basically
make
borrowing.
And I'll make a legal point. In Alabama, I'm almost positive you cannot issue a bond except for specific capital improvements. I don't believe you can do it to fund ongoing revenue losses, previous
Exactly, no.
revenue
Right.
losses. Not to
Well, this
mention,
would
that's
be
just
to
bad
the
fiscal
side,
policy
this would be
borrow money
something that we could
to replace
have
it.
to the side, maybe for redoing all the water system, who knows?
Yeah.
And are we gonna get any more monies from the government? Do we know? Have we heard?
No, well.
Have we gotten all of our money yet?
No, we haven't gotten all, because it came in like 2 tranches, so we've got the first one, then the next one's not supposed to come in next year.
Okay,
You know, it was 50% this past year, and 50% next year.
okay,
But to speak to you about the projects, we would literally have to come up with, so like if we wanted to replace every water line in the city, we'd have to come up with that project, the cost, and then we could still try to go borrow the money, but we're gonna have to show how we can pay it back.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, we gotta do what we gotta do. We don't have a choice.
Well, that's.
I mean, it's just like me. If I got something wrong with my house and it's not good to have it, like my house fall down, I spent $11,000 to have it fixed. However I took that money, wherever I took it, it got fixed, you know? So, this is a house with lots of people in it, and we all gotta come together, somehow or another. I know we're gonna have some angry people about rates. Of course, you're gonna have that. But you know what? Go somewhere else to live and try to live in their place. That cheap. I'm just saying. You know, I mean, I have a house right around the corner from me that's trying to sell for $147,000. They won't probably never get that. If they do, that will be a miracle. And I pray that they do, because they've made that place beautiful.
There's been several miracles lately
Yeah.
in that regard, as far as I'm concerned. Houses are selling.
So
much
I
higher
hope they
than-
do, you know? That means that my property just went up if they do sell it for $147,000.
Getting back, I think Mac answered my question. The question I was about to tell you about the property, I have talked to, one of the legislators about that, and we have to go through proceed with what Mac said. And, so that, future-wise, is something, that's what we may have to do, that. But it's this process that we can't do it. It's a process that we gotta go through the legislative act to get that done.
Okay.
And,
But we have to start.
yeah, but we can get it together by contacting them to get the ball rolling, but I can't bring it before, ask you all to bring it before. In other words, we can't vote.
We don't get to make a decision.
Yeah.
But we have to take action to get things started.
Right. Yeah, and we can't be like other, our neighboring county, Lee County, on property taxes, I know that, but our property tax is pretty low.
Our share of the property tax is very low, even for other cities in this county. Okay?
And
I've
also-
looked at the numbers, and we're way down.
Yeah.
So,
Also, I'm sorry,
Village rate are you talking about?
millage rating,
on the budget, did we put a place for reserves?
as I recall, it's about half.
Did we do that? Because when you put a reserves in on everybody's budget, puts just a little bit to
Well,
aside, like
You know,
for a
right now,
fire
as far
truck
as the
or,
budget is concerned, we haven't done anything like that because, actually, we haven't even, gotten to the point of just getting everything finished. So, the way I'm thinking is that, we're looking at the budget right now and we're seeing numbers that is in line with day-to-day operations. And I understand what you're saying as far as a reserve and stuff like that. So we've got to ensure that, we've got the budget laid out to the point of where it's operational. And then, we're gonna look, we will look above and beyond, what else can we do? What else can we put in this budget? Is there anything that we can take out, either way, yay or nay, as to say, we've gotta have something here just in case. So to your question right now, no, we haven't gotten to that at this stage. And me saying that, we haven't even finished all our department heads as far as just meeting with them. We would have been finished, but we had a situation come up, so we didn't get finished, before this meeting. And we would be in a stage of, just bringing some numbers back together right now. But right now, we're still holding, for another week or so.
what about the city? Does it have a reserve for the city's budget, the city itself?
Not necessarily reserve that's in the
I'm
budget.
sorry.
And I said not necessarily reserve that's in the budget, but I will say this, one way that we do, in a sense, account for things is when we're doing the budget, we fund depreciation. Depreciation is included in our budget. So theoretically, when you're funding depreciation, that's money that you have set aside to replace things after their quote unquote useful life is over.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, so we do consider.
Which is good. I mean, you could do that with the budget too, for your depreciable assets that each department has, so.
Yeah, but I think the difficult thing now is, and I know I passed out a budget previously, and I'm not a whiz when it comes to all the spreadsheets and all that, but I did kind of color code where we were negative. And the council saw the budget that the only thing in that entire budget that was positive was the electric fund. General fund had a deficit and all the enterprise funds had a deficit. So, it's kind of hard to put some aside when you're trying to figure out
Well-
how to just cover, as Councilmember Mangram said, your day-to-day
Well,
operations.
the biggest thing is that increase a little bit at a time. You know, it's like, I had 3 condos. Every year, we went up maybe $5 to $25 on our HOA dues to cover all of our expenses, to keep the building completely taken care of. So, because when I first got there, they had not done that and let all the concrete be destroyed and so forth from the ocean. And we had to spend $2 million, which was, we had to pull out of our pocket for each person who owned the condo, you know. So if the city has to pull, you know, each individual has to pull out of their pocket to come and pay for the water sewer or what have you, that's an assessment that we might have to do if we could do that legally.
Well-
So, you know,
And I
Man.
definitely don't wanna do all the talking, because I won't. But I will say, we have a situation now to where, for years, we've been operating in a fashion where, say, one fund pulled the weight of all the other funds.
you rob Peter to
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
Paul.
So now we're at a situation where if you really want to balance individual funds, well, I'm just gonna be frank with you, small increases aren't gonna do it.
Well,
I mean,
whatever,
and I
see,
think
I don't,
everyone
I
can
don't
agree
know, the-
if they look at it
I
like,
don't know the
like if we
numbers,
go
so
up
I could tell you.
$1 on garbage rates or $1 on water rates, we're no longer 100 steps behind, we're 99 steps behind.
And
I
you,
mean-
and you go up a little bit
you
every
know.
year, you know, and eventually, unless we do an assessment or property tax increase, or what else can we do to bring funds in here?
But you're dealing with a 5% inflation rate right now. So going up $1 or $2 isn't even gonna cover that.
Well, how far are we, see, I don't see the numbers, so I can't make a educated guess on this. Cause if I seen the numbers, then I could tell us where we would need to be.
We approximately need to double almost all of our rates.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we know that, but I'm saying,
I mean, now.
not to freak people out.
Well, you know, and that's, you see, that's,
It's been postponed for 20 years,
Uh-huh.
you know, and somehow you gotta get caught up, and you can't get caught up going $1 or $2 at a time.
Whatever it takes.
And I
We
can
know
get
that we're not
you a
gonna fix
budget.
this overnight.
well, and
By
that's,
the time you guys end your term, we may see a positive. Give us 3 years, give us 4 years.
We
You know,
have
you
4
got
years.
4 years. By the end of the 4th year, let's see a positive at this so that we can say, hey, we did this for you guys. You've got new roads, you've got new water. So,
you know, in saying that, I mean, you know, I feel your sentiments about it. You know, it's hard to sit here as a council and, you know, expecting, you know, something to transpire when, you know, saying with the citizens and the council and, you know, people who's coming in to discuss or voice their opinion or anything, you know, when then you don't have people here to discuss these matters. And, you know, that's the sad part about it, you know, that you don't have the representation that you really need. And, you know, in the end, what is the final input to you know, who's gonna say, who's for it, who, you know, I wrote down a question here as to, you know, for each place that we're in the negative, what is it gonna take for us to come out of the negative? And, you know, like it's been said, $1 ain't gonna do it, $2 ain't gonna do it. You know, we don't wanna just beat people and just what they would think. You know, y'all just trying to rob us, y'all just trying to take all we got. No, we're not trying to take. We're trying to bring this city up to a level where it can operate and the council don't have to worry about, you know, well, you know, people say they want this and we can't do it. You know, this department need this, but we can't do it. You know, that's the thing that people don't understand when we're sitting here talking about this stuff. Now, I mean, you know, we can sit here and vote for everything that come across the table and say, okay, do it. Where's your money coming from? You know, I mean, and
Well,
that's the sad thing about it.
yeah.
I'm sitting here, I got all these papers laid out right here, just in the water rates and stuff as far as other cities is concerned. You know, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 laying out. I got probably 4 more stacked here, and we're at the bottom on all of them. We're at the bottom.
So even if we went up, and I'm talking per month, I'm not talking per year, $5 a month. You know, I mean, what is that number that we're in the rears?
Well,
Do we
and
know
that's a
that
number,
number?
you see, that's exactly what you're saying. That's a number that we need everybody here, we need everybody on board to sit here and discuss this stuff. And so we can, you know, say to the clerk, hey, Mr. Clerk, where do we stand here? What do, you know, he's got stuff, he's gonna lay it out and show us where we are. But you know what? It's a team thing. And when the team ain't
Not
together,
3 or 4.
you know, the team ain't together, then you got a problem. You can't go out here and play a game and when you ain't got everybody on board.
You're right. You are
You know,
so
this
true.
is, we're put here, we're put in place to make decisions for this city. And to help this city move, and we can't even get everybody on board to do that. And now, right now, the way I see it, we're sitting here on Thursday evening talking about this stuff, and we're talking about voting on it on Monday night, 4 or 5 days from now. You know, and you know, everybody know where we stand. Everybody know. But you know, my thing is to come in and let's talk about it. Go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
This is actually an old copy of the budget that I passed out to you guys. It doesn't have the color on it, but you'll see in the general fund, these middle numbers are gonna be the bottom line. So general fund revenue, general fund expenses, that's where we are right now. Electric fund, revenue and expenses, positive.
So they're in a,
Water.
we're in a negative there,
Yes, and then
And
here,
a negative here.
negative, wastewater, negative, sanitation, negative, and then this is gonna be all of these numbers, so.
Okay.
You
So
can
we're-
actually
You
have
could
that.
have those, Anna, I emailed those back. and
Yeah,
give you
I've
regular.
passed that out before, so, but,
Okay.
and I think, I thought you were at the meeting where I passed those out, but I couldn't, cause I think it may have been a sales tax, pub here, maybe where I passed
Pass it
out.
out, yeah.
One public hearing.
I need to bring up something.
Yeah. And then the bottom line is that Mrs. Troxell, if you look on page 2, that
That's the whole
bottom
thing.
number, that's the bottom
Okay.
line.
Well, just in the water department, if we went up, $32, I took the negative 385,000, divided it by 12. So we'd have to go up $32 a month, but we know that's not gonna work. Unless
But not doing.
we do it in
not working.
increments, you know?
Hasn't been working.
Let's take one bite out of that elephant at a time.
Oh, and I'm gonna let the attorney go ahead, cause he was finna say something next. Go ahead.
Well, I've got something practical that really needs to be done. I mean, y'all talking budget numbers, but if we're gonna consider a sales tax increase next Monday, I need a little bit of instruction so I know exactly what the ordinance that you would like to propose looks like. The sales tax ordinance is a boilerplate form that you fill in the blanks. The one that's in our old code book was effective in '93, had 2% for most items, and then 1% on automobiles and heavy equipment. I don't have ordinance 410, but I think that was an interim ordinance that would have been passed in 2004 or 5. 2004, because the one we did was in 2006, okay. So 2004 was 3%, and then 1.5% on heavy equipment and automobiles. Then the one we did in 2006, I think it was. 7? I'm glad the mayor keep me straight. The one we did in 2007 was 4% across the board. So what we did was we increased our rate over and above what you ordinarily see for automobiles and heavy equipment.
Yeah, I've had complaints about that.
Yeah, but and it's a separate line item, I believe, on the printout you get. It is a substantial, it is a substantial amount if we reduce that, if we go up now, because we'll be at 5 cents. And if we go back to, if you go back to half of what everything else is, or 2.5%, then you're gonna have about a 40% drop in that number, in the automobile revenue, sales tax revenue. Which is mostly use tax revenue, because people buying cars in Georgia and they bring them over here and pay the tax here. So, I don't know what sales tax rate is in Georgia, but it needs to
So
be
what
looked
you're
at.
saying, in a sense, though, even though it's high, but we still can vote to keep it the same.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, I wanna have it ready the way you think that, it will be, in a shape that we can either pen and ink it, or have discussed it and actually thought about it before we get there, to know what positions are. And I can have 2 different versions ready, or, like I said, it's just, you type in the number. I need to make sure they hadn't updated the form.
Think you'll be ready Monday?
Oh, I'll be ready, like I said, it's pretty easy because of the boilerplate form. But, it's the same, if you read the one that's in that brown book and the one that we did 2007, it's essentially the same thing. It's just gotta fill in the blank for the, percentage numbers. But if you want to leave the automobile at 4% and raise everything else to 5, we can do that, it just
Well,
needs to be,
What about manufacturing machines?
well, there's not a whole lot of that coming in, so I don't.
Well, I know, but we're the highest in the county on those.
Most of the time that gets waived when they come in, if it's a new industry.
Yeah. Whatever.
Well,
I-
I'm not arguing, I'm just.
No, I'm just saying, it's something that you have to think about. Do we really want to be the highest in the county on that? Since we don't make much on it anyway.
I don't know what heavy machinery that we do collect on. Unless we got, we now have a logger in town, so that he buys equipment in Georgia, when he comes to get tags on his trucks and his trailers, then we'll actually start collecting some tax over there. So we may actually be getting into that a little bit more. Because I think Thad's got like 20 trailers now. You don't tell them how much heavy equipment over there, $2 or $3 million.
We need an extra 105,000 a month. That's across the board, just 105.
I'll tell you what, I'll put in 1 month, you'll put in 11. Oh, man.
But it's, let's divide that by 4 years. That's an extra $26,000 a month. So we can break it down. We're not gonna fix this overnight. We do a rate increase that'll go into effect, say December 1. Then we do another one, say March. They'll be over it by then. Do another one in December.
Never underestimate
The thought
I mean-
process.
Level of.
the
And I'm
staying
talking-
power of vengefulness.
So,
Most of us
or
read
do
the
an
Bible
assessment
and
on
feel
everybody who lives here.
I do think,
That wouldn't go well, would it?
I do think with respect to the sale tax, and Mayor, you mentioned this, and about that it be well spent, not just thrown in
The
general
money that
fund
we
for
get, Louis,
whatever
the money we
expense.
get from the government does
Just
not
like the one
affect
that
this, does
Town
it?
of Troxell mentioned in
We just
Georgia,
put that to a
dedicated to a
side,
specific
or,
purpose or specific purposes. I think that would help people swallow it a lot better.
Oh,
But the feedback I have had has basically been positive, people want to see the city get better, and they know it takes money. So, they're willing to pay their share, and this business about people driving down to Opelika to save 1 cent on their sales tax, come on, folks. And they spend $5 on gasoline, how much are they gonna spend to make up that difference, just break even?
Just talk. And let me just say this. It's also, been saying that, the county can't do anything to the city, but let me just say this, that I know fact it's gonna happen. The county's not gonna wait until the Fed, they get ready to do their own thing. So regardless of what, they going to 10 cents. So, you know,
We're gonna give that 1 cent to the county, is
Yeah.
what you're saying?
yeah,
If we don't take it,
if we don't, you know, it's just
They're gonna
simple as
take
that. They going to do it. I mean, you know, they're not gonna wait on the city of the Fed. They pretty much told me, if we've been waiting since 2007.
Well, you know, I just want to say, I mean, it's been a wait,
Yeah,
and it's been a wait, but it haven't been a situation to say, hey, LaFayette, what are y'all waiting on? Y'all won't do anything? No, it hadn't been that,
been
but
that conversation.
it's just been a, you know, we're gonna wait. And now, I mean, they're at a point where they would like to see an increase in theirs, so,
Right.
like you said, they're gonna go ahead and move, and we know that. I mean, you know, we know they're trying to move. So,
Right.
you know, it won't be, you know, that's the thing about, you know, here in this city, you know, we keep wanting to be in last place for some reason. Why? I don't understand.
except football and basketball.
Except for football and basketball, that's right. We wanna be up front, and you know, the leader in that, but, you know, it takes finances. These other towns and cities are not sitting back just saying, oh, in a few years it'll happen, you know. They're making moves to increase their income at whatever rate changes or anything they have to do. So, and like it's been said, you know, I've heard people are gonna be upset, people are gonna be happy, okay? I understand that, I hear you. Okay, you fund this city off of what you're paying right now. You do it off of yours. I know for a fact that, you know, the handful of the citizens of Lafayette cannot stay where we are and keep this city functioning at the level that we even have functioned. You know, we wanna move up. We wanna do better. We want more. It takes income. Okay, people at home is always wondering, when am I gonna get a raise at work? When am I gonna get a raise at work? You get a raise at work, but do any of that raise come into the city of Lafayette and say, hey, we're gonna spend more money, we're making more money now? No. But you know, the bottom line is, once again, you want more at your house, the city needs more. So
That's right.
let's
do it.
do what we have to do. And I'm sorry, you know, like, you know, the attorney said, yeah, some people are gonna hold that thing over you for a while or a long time or whatever. But you know what? We've got to do something. We've got to. All those people that's saying no, where are they at tonight? Where were they at the last 2 or 3 meetings that we've had as far as the public hearing, as far as tax increase, once that sales tax increase? Where were they? The few people that came, is that what's representing the whole city of Lafayette to say no? Is that the representation of saying yes? This place ought to be full of people.
It should
Ought to
be.
be full of people. If you are for it or against it, you ought to be here to say, hey, we do need more, we want more.
Right.
This meeting was not particularly well publicized,
This meeting,
this meeting. So,
well, it was brought up in council.
well, it was brought up in council meeting that there might be,
No,
Well, let me just address that right quick. I had 2 public hearings, and that was more than anybody ever.
I know, that's fine, and very few people showed up. I'm not,
So
I'm
this
just
was
saying,
publicized
that
that.
you can't judge by this meeting.
Oh,
By
no,
public
I'm just
hearings,
saying.
you can judge.
To the public, we had 2 public hearings, not 1, but 2.
That's right, yeah.
2. So, you know,
Absolutely.
we basically had the same people to show up.
You say the same thing.
Yeah.
I want to step back, and pull David in to step back and address this meeting from a citizen point of view. Is I look at this city as supplying services that a city 10 times its size provides. It's doing it on a skeleton budget. You're either gonna have to change a lot of the services that the city provides, or you're gonna have to raise revenue. But the problem is, nobody wants the reduction in service. So, Anna, you've been coming in from the whole time, we're gonna continue to keep the same baseline. We're gonna continue to do all the same things we do now. But this city, at 2,500 to 2,700 people, is having a hard time providing 20 police officers or 25 police officers. I mean, that's a lot of police officers. That's one for every 100 people. I mean, and then you've got.
We need some more people here too.
We got a fire and EMS, which contributes a lot to the budget to some, but, and I'll disagree, as far as the crime is concerned, I don't know that we need one per 100 people, but, we have a large fire department, a large EMS as well, but it serves a lot of the county, which the county contributes some, but when the county's gonna do an equalization tax, they've been contributing $100,000 a year for 15 years, 20 years, never changed. It hadn't changed in, I don't think, 10 or 15 years. So, if we're still gonna keep running the county with an EMS, I think that there's another place to look for a little bit. Now, you can't put, we all got to go back and remember, especially for the folks that haven't been on the council before, is there are services the county provides that the city doesn't pay for. So it's not like we have to go in demanding additional payment. But, if the county is gonna have additional revenue, which it's in a lot better shape than it's ever been, at least since I've been back in the county, that may be someplace, if we're gonna provide fire and EMS for the west side of the county and the north side of the county, we need a little bit more subsidization from the county. And that would, at least we could equal out those budgets, maybe with some money from the county. But, that's a political thing, and that takes a different kind of negotiation skill than what we're here to talk about today. But you just brought up the entire negative amounts in budget. There are other places to look at fee increases. They just have to be explored, and it takes time and it takes effort. It's hard to do when everybody's got a full-time job. Again, we're trying to run this city like it's got a full-time council, mayor, and a fully staffed clerk's department, and it's just not there.
And that's a great point. One thing that I will mention as far as the county goes, we can't forget, and I know you weren't on the council at the time, Councilmember Hunter. I can't remember if you were the police chief or not, Mayor Vine, but the county went back and looked at their fees and whatnot, and they determined when it came to the jail, they weren't charging enough. And you know what they did? They tripled our rates. So, I'd have a hard time believing that if we looked over everything and went back to them and kind of basically told them the same thing, hey, we looked at the cost of what we're doing and we need X amount in a similar fashion to what you did when it came to feeding the prisoners, housing the prisoners, how could they not understand? We just bit the bullet on that increase, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
It's all running together, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, and the reason I say 4 or 5, because I just think about the pandemic now has been 2, and it wasn't right before the pandemic. So, so it's probably about 4 or 5 years, but they've got to understand that.
Do we get revenue from there,
and then,
from the jail? We don't?
No, they house our prisoners for us, so,
We pay
But it's
them.
in our city limits, so we don't get any money from them?
not as far as.
Those should be cash
housing
cows.
our
They
prisoners
usually
go.
are.
But one of the things I want to mention too is I totally understand from a citizen standpoint about wanting to know where, say, like a sales tax increase, quote unquote, earmarking that money. I get that. But the citizens also have to understand, if you look at that budget, if we say we're gonna get an additional, let's say $250,000 a year, and we're gonna use that to pave roads, and we're gonna use that for whatever infrastructure projects we have. That's not included in the current budget.
That still don't touch.
So now what happens is we've paid to do these additional things, and we're still at square one on our operations.
So we cannot use that money.
We collected $1.4 million in sales tax in 19 and 20, which was the pandemic. If we add 1% to that, that's $14,000 a year. That's not even a drop in the budget.
No, that's
at 1%, just
No,
add
because it's
4%,
not-
that
divide that by
says
No,
the
but-
actual.
No, because you're doing,
I'm just doing sales tax.
I know, but you have to.
That's a 4% sales tax that generated.
Yeah, yeah,
So you gotta divide that by 4, and then multiply by 5 to get your new number.
number,
So it's about 200,000 a month.
exactly.
I mean, year.
Yeah, because it's 4% total, so basically the way you're thinking, if you're gonna do it the way you wanna do it, you've gotta add that extra percent on to the total amount of sales that we had, which I think when I looked at it before, it was like maybe 30-something million, or, I can't give an exact number, but that's definitely more than $14,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just looking at what was collected
Okay,
for sales
right.
tax.
Yeah,
And the
but
amount
but
was-
you're basing your percentage off of what was collected, and the amount that we collect is based off of the actual revenue.
Well, I'm just going up
The
1% is what I did.
No, sales tax,
but
but
It's going up
you're going-
20%.
No, you're going up
I mean,
1%.
25%.
On the final number.
Yeah.
You're going up 1% of what was collected.
Yeah.
That's not
Okay.
right. You have to go up 25% of what was collected.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
Exactly.
Going from
Yeah.
4% to 5%.
Yes,
You beat me there.
Okay.
2/10.
that's the best way to say it.
So it'd be like $250,000 or something like that.
Because you're taking.
And see, a lot of people don't see that. See, I don't see this. So all I see is 9%.
Which,
I don't see 4%, I don't see 3%.
You don't see
Well-
1% goes to county, you don't see 3% goes to
Okay.
state.
And you're bringing
And I
up a
think
point.
there again, that's what the citizens look at too. All they see is sales tax at 9%.
Because we don't tell them what's going on, okay?
So, I mean, you gotta be transparent to everybody if you want something done.
Well, you know, believe me, even some of the people that is not into these numbers that we're talking about, they've heard that, you know, the city don't keep all of that money. All that money don't go to the city. So, I mean, they've heard this, but they don't recall it when it's important. So, I mean, you know, just like the attorney just said, he just broke down 3 places, you know, that money goes out of that 9 cents. And, you know, overall, all we hear, city charge 9% sales tax. That's all we hear.
Well, that's all they see. They don't see anything else. We're not told anything
Well, we
else,
don't
so
tell
we
them
just see
anything else.
9 cents. I mean, I literally go to Georgia to buy groceries because there is no sales tax on groceries. I go all the way to LaGrange. I never buy groceries here.
So you're saving a lot of money, right?
Yeah, because I only go grocery
You just
shopping
put it
once or
this way,
twice a
You save
month.
$10 on 100, but you spent $10 on gas. So
That's what I'm, that's.
Well,
that's
back
the
when
time.
gas was,
Yeah.
but, you know,
Well, gas is fixing to be $4 a gallon.
Yeah.
You ain't
And I
going
will
back and forth
say
to LaGrange
this,
on $10 anymore.
I would wager that if you take a poll of people in Alabama, that if you said, okay, we'll do the same thing that Georgia's doing with regards to sales tax, but we'll also mimic what they're doing with regards to property tax, and I guarantee you they wouldn't like it.
That's
So, I mean, so Georgia, the sales tax saving sounds good, but they're getting the money
Yeah.
Property
via
tax.
Yeah.
property tax.
And
So-
when we lived
oh
in
yeah,
Texas,
Georgia, they're very expensive in property taxes. They just went up twice.
We lived in Texas, they had no state income tax, okay? And, no tax on groceries. But the property tax was sky high. So, you know, you have to get the money somehow.
And you think, well, you're taxing poor people when you're taxing groceries and you're taxing those other things. The problem is, if the property taxes are sky high, you just put the poor people out of the ownership market. Because they can't afford to tax on the house.
Just made them homeless.
Instead of having a $200 tax bill on that house, it's $1,200, well, they can't do that.
I think the groceries and the gas is gonna make us homeless. I paid $4.19 a gallon
Where were you at?
right down the street. I have to buy 93
I was
octane for
thinking,
my
you
car.
had to be very green.
It's $8 in California. Thank God we ain't there. So,
Anyway, back to my point. Y'all want me just to, y'all wanna continue the discussion about the automobiles and heavy equipment, and we'll fill that blank in if we have a first reading, essentially on Monday. Cause like I said, it's a boilerplate ordinance, I can sit it there, fill in the blank.
It's something we ought to think about.
Yeah. But we got till Monday.
And, of course, we could raise our lodging tax, since it's at 0, and put it up to 7% like the other cities in town. But it probably, in the county, but that probably wouldn't bring us much revenue.
That's gonna bring in any revenue.
Probably why it's 0.
Not until we get that hotel that
Yeah.
Councilman Ellis is gonna recruit.
And if you listen to the people who say that the high sales tax will drive people away, then we should be full of hotels. With a 0 tax.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Hey, 7% is noticeable on a hotel bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the automobile, which two, the automobile,
Yeah.
Automobile and heavy equipment.
heavy equipment?
And you can see, ours is at 4% all the way across the board.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And you got lodging tax, everybody else is at 7%, but of course, we don't have any lodging, so it doesn't affect us. They also got
Rental, yeah, I'm looking,
automobiles
we
and
have
rental
0
tax.
rental.
And, they've got, Lynette and Valley both got furniture rental stores. We used to, but we don't anymore.
Now, our amusement sales tax is 0 also, so we probably should have bowling alleys and theaters.
Well, we had our business license, I was just looking at the business license, it's $50 for a movie theater.
Oh,
I don't know if that's right, you know.
That's another thing we might look at.
Well,
That needs to be looked at too.
Looking at the gas tax, did it go up? Well, we know it went up because gas went up as far as, not the tax part, but when you add $2 to a gallon, then you got,
We're tied to the state on that too.
and then Alagasco, I don't know if they've went up yet, I haven't gotten my bill yet. But they said it was going up too, so that's gonna increase the taxes that we,
From a legal point of view, those are different animals.
Yeah.
The gasoline tax is again tied to the state.
Mhm.
And the Spire or Alagasco is the Utilities Commission, Public Service Commission is in
do we
charge of
keep
that.
any of that?
And I was gonna say, on the gas tax, the increase, cause it was what, it started 2 years ago maybe?
Mhm.
And then it went up again,
It's
actually, I think it
earmarked.
went up again last month.
Mhm.
That's gonna
It's
be
automatic
in,
earmark, what, 10%?
yeah, if you scroll down on your revenue page, you'll see, on page 2, you see Rebuild Alabama.
Mhm.
That's gonna account for those additional funds.
So that's where those funds are gonna go.
Yeah.
That's mighty nice of them.
Which for us, because of the formula and how it's based on population and all that,
Mhm.
it's not a whole lot of money. I think we're projecting maybe 28,000 for this year.
28,000
But
we
it's
didn't have.
28,000 that we didn't have.
That trumps that 105. We'll bring it under 100.
But then, of course, those funds are restricted as far as usage goes, what we can use it for.
But and if we didn't even do a 1-cent sales tax, the grand scheme of things, because every product has gone up, that means taxes have increased. So we're gonna see an increase whether we go up or not.
Part of the county as far as
But you gotta also on
Free
the
dog
flip
back
side,
in there
think
and do
about
some of that
how our
review
cost
on
has
it down there
increased
too.
as well.
Yeah, they know.
So then
There areas
our
like that.
expense side is
Population
going up
is big,
because
there.
everything that we purchase costs more. So then it's kind of a net zero, meaning, are we really gaining if we're getting more in sales tax, but then we're spending more in expenses?
Right.
You know, so.
Well, it just depends on what we purchase too, and if we can curb the purchase.
And that's something that
Yeah.
would affect the whole population at once. If we were to raise those to try to cover our cost of doing connections, it would only affect people who are getting new connections or perhaps reconnections. But that's something that we could increase without having the sudden shock impact on the whole population. And it would help water, sewer.
Tap.
Well, I want to revisit, if you've noticed the number of cemetery deeds on there, we really need to get that done, I think,
Well,
really
That's
fast.
because people are hurt, we're gonna raise them.
I was thinking about
You know, I mean,
Joanne and I.
it's 150, I know we're not gonna, it's something not gonna, you know, my concern, reason I brought up about the cemetery, I mean, right now, we can have, even on the, come in and buy 30 or 40 plots, then they'll turn around and sell it whatever they want to, and I guarantee you, they make a profit. I'm not, you know, my thing is,
Yeah, they're gonna flip them.
yeah, we shouldn't have that to happen. We still gonna be at a loss, I don't, you know, how much, how much did we pay for that property?
Mr. Green says that cemetery, if we keep it the same rate in the cemetery with a new part of the handy cemetery, we won't even cover the land cost when we sell those lots.
We got surveying roads to go.
Yeah.
And Clyde didn't, what Clyde did, it's gonna take a lot of work for it to be ready to turn to the
So,
cemetery.
you know, we've got to go up, and we need to do it soon.
Yeah.
We need a number.
Well, and that's, you know, and that's the thing about what we're sitting here talking about. I mean, you know, as far as this council is concerned and stuff, that's where we need the full body to sit here so we can discuss numbers in real numbers. Where should we be trying to go? The department heads maybe even need to be here as far as to talk about, you know, all this stuff. You know, it's just so that you're trying to sit here and do something, and you don't have what we really need to get it all done with.
And nobody's gonna think about it till we get back to this next table.
That's absolutely, on Monday night, when it brought up, then it's all something said, you know what I mean?
What I'd like to do on the cemetery lots is, if y'all just give me a number, I'll put it in a draft ordinance. We'll present it to the table, and then we'll get some discussion on it, and it'll be ready in case, we need to go up to $500 a lot.
Well, I mean, you know, at this point, I mean, you know, and the Lord knows, I hope I'm not out of turn for what, I mean, I would agree, $500, you know, let me say this to you. You've got churches around here charging that.
I mean, yeah. the
You've
average
got
church-
churches charging
the
that
average church
to
is on
members,
500.
and some are, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there's some churches may be charging non-members 500, 300 for members. Okay, that's fine. So, we're gonna go 500 for everybody,
Yeah, that's,
You know?
that's reasonable.
citizens, not citizens, you know, whoever. So you wanna come and lay here, we're gonna, 500.
All right.
I think that's reasonable, let's do it.
And that's not a big, it's an increase, but it's not a triple increase.
Yeah, we have a
I
lot
know
of
one church is $750.
Yeah.
And $550 for the member, and $750 for non-members. And it's within a 10-mile radius of here, so, hey.
And you gonna give it up before
Right, before
they
that,
put a hold on it.
before the whole is
That's
done.
it.
That has to be paid. So, you know,
I bet you in 10 years that we lost
I know,
2,500 living
$4,000 or
souls, we probably buried that
$5,000
many.
in
Oh,
Columbus.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
being
yeah.
cremated, so I ain't gotta
And
worry
most
about
of
it.
them
I'm
are
gonna just,
That's right.
here I is.
There's people out there from Huntsville,
They're gonna just
Birmingham,
splash me in.
Chicago, all over the place.
So what do you, I mean, do we, you know, just say to the
I ain't
attorney,
going no ground.
Work with that? And then,
I don't know if I'll have that ready by Monday, but
Yeah,
I'll.
you gotta have it ready.
Yeah, we understand. I'm coming
You
to
work
the
this
point
weekend,
now,
can't you?
on our fees, I think we may have to wait.
Mr.
on that.
Attorney.
Overtime,
Mr. Attorney,
probably charge us overtime rate.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah,
Can we afford
that's
that?
right, Councilman, yeah, charge that rate.
If you saw my rate from 2:30 Saturday to about 6:30 Saturday, well, it may only be to about 4:30 Saturday, we'll see.
Well, let me just kind of say this right here, which, Councilman Michael brought up a good point, and plus, I think with our 1 cent sale tax, that's been dragging on long enough, I think we can go ahead and put that to a vote Monday. Now, on our fee, Councilman Michael brought up a good point, you know, that's something, a discussion we may have to, you know, with the department head being, you know, we may have to wait on that, you know, because right now, I can't really think of a number even without connection fee, as Councilman Hunter just said, how much would be, you know, I don't know, you know, and that would be something our department head.
The department heads have some idea, for
Yeah.
example, of what a connection fee costs, what it costs them to do the connection,
Right.
okay? So you gotta cover this, first of all, the cost of materials, the cost of the labor,
That would be 2011.
You can come up with an estimate, but we need to do it, I mean, not just.
No, she actually
talk
about it.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't get it done, but I think right now, we may.
Is there an department that we could say, easily say tonight, as far as a increase is concerned? Is there an department that we could sit here and say, hey, let's shoot for an increase on that department tonight? And pay, you know, try to move it on money.
I proposed in February that we double the sanitation fee, the garbage fee. That would have provided us with a little bit of a surplus this year, and it would have provided us with a surplus in future years. Now, maybe double is too much, but, you know, we're talking about $14.15 at the present rate. So, and that would, we need a limb truck. We either need to buy a limb truck, get a grant for a limb truck, or issue bonds to buy a limb truck and have money to pay it back. So somehow we gotta do something.
So with any of these increases that we discuss, do we try to look at them to say, okay, as far as the street department is concerned, you know, garbage rates?
Now, that's
Okay,
sanitation.
sanitation, okay. I'm talking just same
Separate-
department.
separate
I'm just talking
department.
same department. But just say garbage rates. So in any other of the rates that we're talking about, do we propose a number as far as to say $30 here, but we do it in implements of 2 to 3 years, you know, or something like that? So, you know, then therefore, if we do more than one group, then what end up happening is, if we just double the garbage rate, then by the end of it, you may be out of, instead of just the 14 additional dollars, you just may be out of $20 or 25 for all the departments
Yeah. Well,
for this year.
and the other thing you could do is you can put in an inflation clause, so that every year you raise the rates to cover inflation.
So you see, that's the full body, that's the discussion, that's where you.
We're still somewhat handicapped because we don't.
We got only half the body.
You know.
Well, still, you know, I think we've had a good discussion this evening,
Oh, cool.
and it'll put us in a position to talk to the other members
Now,
when we get
you know, one thing I am concerned about, I know we were saying about the electrical department, our electricity, how would we do, I know we're on the ADA. How would that do if we do it?
Okay.
Now,
Do we
now,
need
now the rate, we're actually in the process of doing a rate study now. Jackson Authority's doing a rate study that's actually paid for by AMEA. And then they're gathering all our data. Of course, things have changed because our largest utility users no longer here. But then when they finish that, they will submit that information to me, I'll submit it to y'all, and then they'll have a recommendation in that about where we should be as far as rates go for.
Oh, okay, so in other words, they're gonna kind of help us out there.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And it'll be specific, meaning they're gonna look at our exact system and what the costs are for our system, and then determine the rate. Well, recommend a rate from that.
Are we going to go to that system that gentleman came in and talked to us about, where they would install the meters, that you wouldn't have to have a meter
And,
reader?
yes, that's,
Are we doing that?
yeah, we're in the process of doing that now as well,
Good.
and that's kind of two separate things, yeah.
Because there's some issues there. I mean, and I'm not gonna get into details, but I know there's some money lost there, a lot of money lost there.
Well, I think we also need to make one point that we had a lot of discussion about how we got to the budget hole that we're in. And something that wasn't brought up, and I thought was really important, since he's over there typing a lot, is that when our large customer left, when Cardo shut down, the net loss to the city, now the revenue loss was a lot larger, but the net loss to the city was right at 400,000 per year. And a lot of our hole we're dealing with now is from
Trying to
that
dig out
loss
that one,
of net revenue from that one large customer
right.
from the city.
That's in the current expenses. The neglect of planning ahead and getting ready to cover expenses, like counting the depreciation on the equipment, but not putting money aside to buy it, sort of thing is what's hurting us too.
I agree, no, I agree it's there, but it's been acerbated
Yeah.
immensely by Carter.
We were bleeding and now we've got a big, then we got.
Yeah, we started gushing, and,
Well, do we have any thoughts of adding another company there or getting somebody to come
most of
in?
our industrial land's covered in mirrors,
So,
but, the CCDA brings folks, but they all want interstate frontage. You got,
Well, and that's why LaFette lost out in the, I think in the very beginning, because of where our location is. I mean, unfortunately.
and we have added one or two smaller industries that don't get a whole lot of fanfare, but Cardo's was a special kind of electric company because you would tell them how to save money, but they wouldn't do it. They'd flip on that big mixer and it cost themselves about 10 grand just because they flipped the switch instead of warming it up. So,
It started with Pete and it finished with me. We smiled every time.
every time your lights dim when
You
they
don't
cut
want
that
to save
mixer
money,
on,
that's fine with us.
cha-ching. Well, we need another one like that, don't
We
we?
definitely missed that cash cow.
and I will say for a long time, I mean, we were running on one substation in this town and we have done some improvements to get two of them back running.
Yeah.
And that was not a good thing.
And you also have to factor in, I know we're thinking about Cardos, but let's see, December for me will be 13 years. So in the last 15 years, at one point 15 years ago, you had roughly 60% of your load was two customers. And now 15 years later, both of those customers are gone.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So we gotta
So
fix
Hazel
that,
did-
don't we?
Say Hayson didn't pull nearly the power that Russell did when they were in that building.
Yeah.
1/10.
Well,
Well, I know it's getting late, so where do we stand, gentlemen? Clerk,
Well, I know y'all mentioned, you mentioned the 1 cent sales tax. But then I think someone still, well, not someone, but you guys still need to, guys and gals, still need to discuss the remaining sales tax items as, tax items as Attorney Tucker said, because that ordinance includes numerous items, and not just basically the general sales
And
tax.
the two been brought up is what, the automobile,
yeah, well, manufacturing machinery and farm
just
machinery.
those two?
Things like that. Well, there's a number of them here. Any of them where our red line is above the average, I would say we need to think about those.
Well, can we say, leave it the same since we don't have something zero and rental zero and, lodging zero and that? So
Rental tax
can we
on
say that
maintenance.
can balance itself out?
Well, but we don't have any of those businesses. How many car rental places do we have here?
And I guess if we're talking about, if you guys are talking about deciding and changing things, the question that I have is, say like even with regards to, I guess Councilmember Hunter said rental. Do we wanna stay at zero and then say if we start growing and all of a sudden now we have to go back and change it, or should we just, even though we don't have anything right now, should we just go ahead and change it just to have it ready so if something comes up?
I think we should.
Yeah, that would be a good
Yeah.
idea.
As opposed to
That's what you call
doing-
planning for the future.
Exactly.
That's
as opposed to
right.
doing-
That'd be your reserves.
Yeah,
if we have
yeah,
any.
And bring the other ones down to somewhere near the average for the county, you know, a little above.
Just because
a
we
little
don't
below.
have one now.
Well, let's
future.
Do it while you
Go ahead.
can.
Hey, let's do that tonight, because like I said, this thing is dragging.
Yeah. Okay, and then we need to tell people where the money's gonna go.
Right.
You know, so they can buy into it.
So what would be for,
What I'm thinking is we got first three paragraphs of the sales tax revenue is, basically, retail, tangible, personal property, tangible, personal property. The next one is amusement, billiard, pool rooms, bowling alley. We do have an amusement tax. It is at 4%. Apparently somebody just didn't get it on the ground.
Oh, it wasn't, didn't show
the actual ordinance that was passed.
Okay, that's fine,
It's paragraph B
okay,
in this
all right.
amusement, entertainment, billiard, and pool.
Is that the one from 2007, Matt?
Yes,
Okay.
it's 4%. And then, we have 4% on retail machines in mining, quarrying, compounding, processing, manufacturing, tangible personal property. That's your heavy equipment. It's at 4%. If we leave it at 4%, we can do those first two paragraphs at 5%. We could leave that at 4% or we could reduce it, whichever way y'all want to do. And then the last one is the
Exactly the same,
automobile.
or exactly, or, you know, or lower on everything, but, you know, not double or triple or quadruple probably.
Well, a lot of from what I'm looking at this graph, everybody's at 1%. Nobody increased their automobile sales tax and they increased any of the other. You would ordinarily think you would see it, it was passed, it was half of what the sales tax was. That's how it all started. But when they went to raise the general sales tax, they didn't raise that 1% on automobile sales, and I don't know why that is, but that's what you're seeing on this graph here. And we did that, and we raised that, but, you know, I was thinking it's 3.5% when you buy an automobile in Alabama, I believe, and somewhere else. And I don't know, I assume the state tax must be 2.5%. If the state charges 2.5%, why is everybody else only charging 1%? And like I said, we're such a hotbed of automobile sales. We're only getting that tax when somebody buys an automobile in Georgia. And they don't collect sales tax when they bring it over here. They'll collect sales tax. My son bought a used car, they collect the sales tax in Georgia and send it here. The finance company did, to make sure that he could buy the tag. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to buy the tag.
Good idea.
So, you know, it doesn't make any difference to me, the heavy machinery, most new industries, they're getting abatements anyway. Rarely do you see it. If you leave it at 4%, they get a bigger tax break for getting the abatement.
Sounds more impressive.
You know,
Sales tax
well, you
is
save more money, you
2%.
come to the Fed.
Autos,
The farm equipment, most of the farmers are
1.5
outside.
for a farm,
Um,
the state.
And none of that's tagged, that's kind of hard to collect anyway. If it's not being sold in town, you're not gonna hardly collect it. Nobody's just gonna run up to the city clerk and say, oh, I bought a $100,000 tractor, I need to give you $4,000. It's just not gonna happen, I don't know.
That's true. We don't have any tractor stores in town.
Jane, well, I mean, the only place we collect a little bit from the implement sales at Mitchell's. Wait. Okay, showing your age there, man. It was waited a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's, are we kind of like on board what Mac just kind of said, and we agree with that? Yeah. So we kind of pretty much in agree with what you just kind of said, Mac. I agree.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll have it ready with 5% on the amusement and the regular sales tax and leave it at 4% on the heavy equipment automobiles. Farm equipment.
Yeah. Those who's present tonight, anything else y'all think of? I know it's, again, getting a little late. I have personally enjoyed this discussion. I just wish we had everybody here to,
Well,
you know.
maybe they'll watch the video.
Mayor, one thing that I guess I'd ask everybody to think about this here. I know we talked about moving forward, about looking at other items. And maybe a good idea, since we're already gonna be meeting anyway, to start this, like, maybe not next meeting, but the meeting after. Let's just put in some work sessions before that meeting, to just, at least to ensure that we can get some of these conversations, you know, we're getting them started, but to keep them going.
Right.
You know, and not like have this conversation now and then we're in January and we really hadn't talked about it again. So I'm just doing some definite work session before every meeting, you know, man, a lot of cities, it's just a standing thing that hour before the meeting, it's a work session.
Well, a lot of them have it, their work session, if they're meeting at 6, they have a work session at 5.
Yeah. And it's just to And I bring that up to just say to keep this conversation going, because for me, this will be my 13th year. I care about Lafayette. I want Lafayette to move forward, and we're in a spot now where we can't continue to neglect what we're staring in the face right now.
Right.
We have to do something, because if not, we're on a bad road, you know, and that's just, and I know no one wants that, but everyone's so busy that, you know, a week turns into a month turns into 6 months, and if we just go ahead and put something in place, like, hey, we're gonna meet at 5 o'clock on that second and fourth Monday, and then, because there's always something to talk about.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that's right.
I mean, you know, and I know everyone's busy, I'm busy, but,
Yeah,
I'm concerned.
yeah.
I mean, that's
But
just-
but I know the talking we need done, but you've gotta take action too.
yeah,
We've gotta get some, we've been here a year now,
I agree with that.
and nothing has been done.
Agree with that, but I guess
We're just digging that hole.
I agree, and I guess I'm looking at it from a standpoint of, since I've been here, what happens is, we have a good conversation. And then 4 or 5 months, we rekindle that same conversation, and we're still in the same spot. To where if
Yeah.
we start having the consistent conversations, then maybe, like, no offense, but right now, we're talking about cemetery. Cemetery should be over and done with long time ago.
Right.
You know, we're gonna go into Monday, and we're still not gonna know about cemetery. Whereas if we have some designated days, then that will be knocked out, and then we'll be going into Monday knowing that we're gonna adopt the ordinance, or at least introduce that ordinance.
Yeah, we gotta get it done, yeah.
Department heads will be here Monday, it's the first meeting of the month. We should not leave that work session without having a clear, concrete number on what we wanna do with regards to tap fees, cemetery lots. That's just my opinion.
And it's a good one.
Would that be, we can do that in the form of motion of the vote for work session every second and fourth Monday, 5?
Well, you know, I think we,
At the meeting, not now.
you know, at one
No, I'm
point,
saying what that.
when we were talking about, and we were doing some meetings at 5, then it got to change to 5:30. And you know, my thing is this, you know, and I said this from the previous time I was on council, that you cannot get anything done running here and stay in 10 or 15 minutes. You cannot come in here and have an honest discussion about business in 30 minutes and be ready to go into another meeting. You just can't get it done. So, you know, we're gonna do it, we need to be firm on our time. Those that wanna come will show up, those that don't, hey, we'll see you at 6 if you decide to show up then.
What if we started catering? People show up too.
Yeah, come to eat, yeah.
Well, with that being said, do you think from 5 to 6 is long enough for a workshop?
Yeah.
5, an hour, okay, well, that's right there. I just want to make sure, you know. And then we're not, you know, we just asked
Where's the money coming
two times out of the month.
Yeah.
Work session.
Well, just every meeting, just
Pay for the catering.
work session at 5.
Yeah.
Council meeting at 6. He done. Those that wanna come, gonna come, those that don't wanna come, they ain't gonna come no more.
It's just like tonight.
She's gracious with the credits, now she needs to gracious with some catering.
Just figure out how much per hour we're making anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we can,
Maybe we
Two
could
meetings
pass
a
a
week.
way, every town has to cater.
if we in for the money, we in for the wrong
And
thing.
so we'll just have,
Yep.
That's number one. If you're in it for that, then definitely.
And anybody feel like, I mean, be honest now, if you think about it, you know, I had an opportunity 4 or 5 years ago, basically, right now. The other 3 council members that we have had an opportunity for the last several years, you know, if you want more, well, sit here and vote it in.
So before we, I guess, adjourn, where do we stand right now?
I know I'm gonna have an ordinance ready on sales tax for presentation, we'll have that on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
What about cemetery lots?
cemetery lots, I'll be prepared to discuss what needs to be done to raise
You
those
can't get
lots.
that ready quite by now.
Okay.
You can't.
Well, you also have the water
I need to be put on the
connection,
thing.
well,
Well, we
I'm
need
on
to get,
the
we need
Christmas
to,
on
we
the
need to see
That's
what our
committee.
cost is on that.
I've got
Okay,
to
okay.
ask.
but we will have cemetery
I want some money.
For discussion.
for discussion.
So-
Oh, well,
Do
a
we
good
just send me that
discussion.
form?
I think it's just.
Okay,
We'll just wait on,
Put it.
we'll wait on the water and all that, right?
Yeah.
Well,
we'll go
Until
to-
we talk to the
Yeah.
department.
Things like
A
the
few of us are gonna be
connection
from the
fees,
committee,
we
so.
need to know, I mean, it's not just a matter of raising on just the water rates, it's things like the connection fees that we have to look at too, so we at least cover the cost of the connection.
Okay, all right.
And from my point of view, I've actually got, this book only goes to about 93 or 4. So I've got to check this book, and we got to go through the ordinances that were passed before I was city attorney. I know which ones were done when I was city
Yeah.
attorney. That's only 16 out of
Okay.
30 years.
Do you need this back?
Can we just add an inflation clause to
Yeah,
all?
if we go up on our utilities
Well, there's a
and
lot of
stuff,
inflation clauses
I mean,
in here
we've
that have
got
not been
to, we don't have a
okay.
choice.
See?
One of which has been
If we do
sewer.
it every
It's supposed
6
to be
months, we
reviewed.
might see some,
Okay.
some.
But the engineer's supposed to review it and come up with the cost.
We're supposed to tell them to do it.
It says the city shall cause the engineer to.
Exactly, okay,
And, you know, whoever the city is,
well,
and that hasn't happened apparently.
On the utility
Okay.
taxes,
So we pretty much,
what do we do with
No.
that money?
we know we're gonna have
Could
the
we go up on
One
that
cent.
one?
ready.
Yes, that is.
And we're gonna have the cemetery for discussion, and we're gonna
So we have to
Kind
give
of
that to the state.
uphold the water and electricity,
We could
because
add
we,
1%
there's a study
to
done
it.
on it.
but the inflation rate
And they've
thing,
never
we
known.
ought to
I
have the
mean, you
engineer
know, come
come
on.
up with the inflation and put that on.
Well, the problem is you got to tie it to a consumer price index, or you got to figure out which inflationary measure you want to tie it to. That gets kind of difficult to put an automatic increase in there. Because say, for the 10 years
No, I'm
previous,
talking about for the one that's in there now.
well, the engineer, actually, it says the engineer is supposed to go and assess all management, all costs. He's supposed to go through and put a percentage of overhead and management in it, and come up with what that is every year.
That's how it ought to be.
Yeah,
Make it
but
look
it hasn't been happening, but the city has to ask them to do that.
But we can do that now.
They'd never know.
Not today. not
No, but I
tomorrow.
mean,
Yeah, well, I mentioned it
how
to
about this
Lewis.
money?
I mentioned it to Lewis, and I assume if the mayor would instruct the city engineer to do it, we don't technically have a city engineer. And sometimes one of these council people over here wants to act like she doesn't like the city engineer, or she does sometimes. I can't keep up with it. Or did I, excuse me, I should have been gender non-specific. I was not woke.
Yeah, that way nobody will know which gender it is.
But anyway, if the mayor will instruct the clerk to contact the city engineer, we'll probably get him started on that. He'll love me for it.
Well, that's something we gotta do. I mean, yeah, we gotta get that done.
Had we been doing it, we wouldn't have as many problems as we have now.
I mean, we're doing good.
And the routine would be established. And
Well, the last time they did it, it raised, I remember it raised the roof, because I think Mr. Reese was still on the council last time we raised water and sewer. He did not go over.
There's, there it is, right there.
I just texted my daughter, she's in Hood with her water and sewer.
Yeah, we could go down on the gallons.
She's a single person in a 1,300 square foot house, so that's about double what we pay. Our minimums for a person in a single household is about $35, I would think.
that's about right.
Well,
Okey dokey.
any more? Anybody have anything else? If not, meeting adjourned. All right. I appreciate everybody coming out. Feel pretty good.
Hey, it's still working.